It's important to understand that the colonies were set up for the extortion of the respective nations. Before and while with being set up for the extortion of the Native Americans and of the colonists long term, without ever anyone realizing this is an organized crime breaching method. There's the devil, which is more plausible than the devil being, this is about what stole ancient revelations. In other words, this is about what stole the original nature of the ancient campus marcias. And we'll see we'll see requires proper fact treatments, require having proper fact treatment of fact treatment nature, and this requires speaking this way. This is how. And so we're going to teach algebraic consciousness, how the identities share an identity. As the sciences, they share the sequence nature. They share the positive being identity. Being all identities onto its. Just like all parts of our body are different, they all share the sequence nature and identity. All parts of space do. In relationship to what is valued. Inherently, actively, and progressively. And this is what you have to understand the difference between positive and negative value nature. And see, this is not something that you learn. This is something that was obfuscated. Now, the sciences were criminally re-engineered, and this was uncharged. And this is because this is a method against our fact treatment nature. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form. I'm not a criminal. We'll see English was revealed by internation sciences. This is more probable. This is discernibly how we have to teach history. And with organized crime, with a phenomenon called organized crime, functional to making manifest with the manifest of criminal enterprises internation, called criminal insidiousness nature, and that's how. We're going to understand how that was made, cultivated to be preserved through time, cultivated through time, in relationship to how colonies were set up for the extortion of the respective nations, and for before that, this is before our founders' birth. This is why George Washington was still extorted, still forced to theater for long-term lies that they needed for that, for the organized crime method, building criminal insidiousness natures. For example, in relationship to our home. If you even found out talking about building infrastructure out of internation monitored database conversations, they made examples of you and your whole family. It was scary. You know what I mean? That's why people took part and just like it was nothing with colonization's laws, even after our founders had to lie and drop off the surface values of the Constitution, yet never defended together. The experiment was to be able to allow the regular citizen to truth to be defended by no matter who. See, but we have leaders not only sharing lies for regular reasons realized, but in relationship to all that's still involved criminally with the area of Samuel Dick's house in Wethersfield. And this is why George Washington had to meet with the French general to counter-extort, who was counter-extorting him. Extort. He had to force them, key members with the colonies, to have to defend themselves from the crazy system they were forced to go against, everyone not knowing. So they formed and what they did too is because internation sciences were entrenched here with this. So it was crazy database relationships forced. In other words, the internation sciences. If you met, or the laws were that you had to be in this conversation that was monitored if you're going to talk about building infrastructure. Because they needed it to stay unsafe. They needed it to stay, part of lie progressions and training of criminal insidiousness natures, roles as breaching natures. Because then they cultivate that further with movements against each age of fact treatment nature, individually and together. And so when we come to the terrorism, with these modern contexts, we don't have one agency already not defending breaching roles, justifications of movements against the surface values of the constitutions together and individually, like when they move against religion, when the very Quran warns against Muslims who believe they're Muslims always, they're going to do this. In other words, and this is in relationship to the extortion of Saudi Arabia, because every modern nation fell to this, so they have to defend the body of their nation in relationship to their extortion, in relationship to the nature of the forced markets positions. All hundreds of nations forced as fact treatment natures ill, and with that ill, and to pretend that glorified, not letting free speech, ratiocination, enforcing glorification of other science in relationship to the value nation systems is dependent on. Money, values, invested ways, and stuff like that. So we have to cap the bottoms. We have to admit this because we have the same enemy, so we're stupid not to. Of course, that's how you contain these movements. That's how you work. That's how you overcome them. That's how you overcome them. You don't leave them with the hurt conviction natures. You don't leave them. You see, we have campuses that have told no worse than not be able have people be able to think and to treat facts properly, but then they defend, that and the other sciences. Everyone's on group lean. The sciences, especially psychology, is tied to originally and breached, and stayed breached, delusion propagation and roles with intercity, suburban and urban, consolidated through the same crime method against fact treatment natures, roles, against our leaders, and through their kids through time, and through, because they knew this is what they're doing, perpetually have all these juxtaposed investigations, and they have reaction natures. They have to ask questions and things like that into context. Only let each age of fact treatment nature involved with in our faces criminality with the stewards of each age of fact treatment nature, and especially with the elderly and the little kids, in conjunction with what is consciously maintaining poverty to maintain fact treatment justification excuses, because it's only ratiocination, not with the sciences. It's not in a value nature system that is recorded. It only takes lies, delusions, and hiding premises, and having all kind of hurt conviction natures masked to have it blamed on other. That's what we have. Like online too. There's not one place to report the truth in the news. And the news it fakes the other sides of stories because they can't they can't they've been justifying too long roles with and juxtaposed natures of crime and with their interbranch sources. So we still have original state interbranch fact mistreatment. And then it takes, that was arranged to have people put passions out of sequence. They wouldn't be in sequence. In other words, we have ill standards and we have them being exploited, but at the same time by people with predatory jobs, predatory natures, because of the fact everyone's a victim predator in relationship to original state intercampus corruption. All natures of it, private service people, security, and then it's juxtaposed with area corruption. And that's taken into the investigations using these people with pseudo homeland patriotism, stuff like that. Want to have a debate, but the only way this perpetuates is because they have books that have criminal insidiousness slides categorically forced with summary convictions and with the forced glorification of our forced extorted founders. Language and fact treatments and fact treatment natures. It's which is the target of this. This is the goal, not money. This is before money. This is where the areas. So we're going to examine the Samuel Dix house. There's houses around that associated with further recorded middle school and further confessed, and further than that recorded and demonstrable middle school corruption tied to the houses around it, and tied to a religious school right next to it, and and tied to one with nuns. I don't know the name of it, but a Mike Roberts, Eric Jensen, and a Mike Kerr, and a Joe Aiello. All those people. They mentioned. In other words, these were people in the past that had roles with drugs, with interbranch cliques, with medical cliques, and they make them go up to people, and then they can't, in context, they can't be honest about later, and then sequentially through time. Then they have to pretend they attach that to their roles with witness fabrication, evidence fabrication, database crimes, and backgrounds, where they're not letting students tell things all different, because they get all these different professors and stuff like that juxtaposed with off-campus, like court police from different various natures of courts, from the same nature of courts but in different cities, and they have all these people juxtaposed needs to tell the same finite body of value and top-down lies together through time, not knowing me. So they don't even let report. They're recorded hiding the worst crimes against each age of fact nature. That's why they won't listen to me, because they know I've been catching them with recorded things through time. They recorded themselves, and then I try to report things tied to it, criminal things tied to it, and they know about the background scene, so they keep going deeper, and they keep attaching me to fake conversations, recording the sequence shifts, which demonstrates fake things. And they've been doing this consciously on campus, off campus, and using the media to hurt innocent people, boys and girls with the campuses of all ages, even in the campuses too. I mean, even how Middletown, CCSU, and Trinity College, and with the other colleges, even the community colleges evolved. And with their policing and with their staffs. And it's in relationship to the Marcus positions, where nations are strained, and relationship to the values of those. So no one can be honest about it. That's part of there's this strain on the people of Mexico, which is a wealthy nation. But look at that, but everyone's playing a system that has their leaders extorted as fact treatment nature, forcing it from the states level up, because they're relying upon that to stay wealthy, get wealthy, whatever like that. They make that a truth that is not, attached to lies. Everything's abridged. Everything with the Constitution is abridged. And so all we have to do is let people, we need a place online to make, is the Wethersfield police with child crimes, they're recorded aware that they're, because all various natures of crimes juxtaposed. So they have lie progression cover-up needs. So they've been using Facebook to hurt all ages of fact treatment natures to cover whatever conversations come in. They hurt kids. You know what I'm saying? Not for sexual abuse, but they have all these kind of excuses to blame it on too, because it's what was there before, and what stays against what's keeping everything. We had original ulterior database relationships juxtaposed with that, with the original internation sciences only let realize as Oz, victim predator pseudo-sophistication. This is what happens when you criminally re-engineer ancient revelations. You criminally re-engineer the campus smart cities. You criminally re-engineer human fact treatment nature. You criminally re-engineer. You hurt progressions, because the system, the only overall system, is going to keep demonstrating negative value nature progressions. It's going to keep demonstrating the positive relationship of our identity as a species being pushed away as negative value nature, not no longer positive value nature unto itself. So no longer attaching to what forces and causes evolution here, being positive unto itself, progressively, inherently, actively, and progressively. So this is algebraic consciousness. This is what we'll learn with the pantheism, which is a science. It doesn't deny the other religions. This is what the ancients never thought could imagine they would lose. Anyone would contaminate what the space is only natural system communicating with us, and how to cause positive value nature progressions. But that's what happened. And so we're going to examine this with the cartoon, and with the website, and with the pantheism. It's also with the ancient gaming system. So we attach value to all areas. We make positives out of negatives. Because in other words, people who interact with the game too can make money. Not just be a game. This is one game that is positive relationship to itself as us. Species Body dropped its book of games. So when it comes to things like Africa and like Asia, no one could explain it, even them. Because colonies were set up for the extortion of the respective nations by fact treatment natures. And this vested in this ways we're going to examine. In relationship to the Samuel Dix house, relationship to the Northern's role with slavery in Hartford, and with the extortion of George Washington, and how his words are forced glorified still, even though we have the proofs, and with James Madison, who was our first Chief Justice. So he was a plaintiff in the other case, but I didn't even read it, but Marbury versus Madison. I was told by my father, and I'm sure he's right, true justice must satisfy all appearances of true justice. You know what I'm saying? When there are exceptions, we don't have honest true justice. This is recorded. We have sequence shifts that show this through time, because we have them worse than Oz, incapable of admitting it, moving forward, pretending credibility anyways, because everyone's already attached to fact treatment nature convictions that are not written, but forced as the nature of precedence. And with trick, fact treatment natures only realized trained per what was with the areas first, and then only letting roles to it through the sciences, and then maintaining that, blamed on all other. So the terrorists had, with colonization, they had a forced terror database relationship to stay blamed on other, and everyone perpetually incapable of the sophistication to understand, even face the honesty, to face the or the honesty, that will hurt this terror system without each of our nations through the schools, and while they're saying that they're glorifying them, consciously recorded. They're ill. They just pose with the guys. They're going by a ulterior value nature system that's not free. It's not. There's not the only overall system. It's not the only truths. So we lost this since American Revolution, because we lost on campus fronts before this since ancient times, and per a method to keep employed breaching fact treatment nature's all ulterior from the one justified, and then that's standing misprising criminality with life progressions. Doesn't even understand, just they have each age of fact treatment nature contained in their expectations, trapped with on-campus, off-campus, inter-campus tricks with those group things, holding all, who thinks emerges, they get hurt, but not, and there's nowhere to demonstrate, because they have the teachers trained ill, and then now they're invested with life and needs on a value nature system that's ill. So we have truth. They don't even let the most basic mandated law followed, and they direct the media to cover it up. So we have interbranch roles recorded with the worst crimes against children and against elderly. And they need the excuses to do. They keep it at the last root because they have the probate courts involved with it. So they have excuses that they can't speak up front, and they all agree not to speak it up front, but it's juxtaposed to worse, and not by accident. In other words, it's not about money. Why we have a problem with the elderly? You don't put that in a market system. Leave them in little box rooms and stuff like that with that junk, garbage food. You don't do that. Then you have the garbage workers. They're attached to area criminality with the police forms involved with the sex crimes sustained still online with the kids and with WFSB and with the other things. They tell fake medical information about me too. Pretend I had relationships with doctors that weren't at all as a kid. They just type stuff in databases about our kids behind our backs with other things, other people. You know what I'm saying? We need a forced response to me, and then what's I'm just gonna stay with truth in the sequence, and that's gonna show too that 9/11 crimes recorded since before 9/11 involved with the which show how internation criminal enterprises were juxtaposed to job sites in relationship to unions and stuff like that, and then with our campuses, intercampus connections, with all different internation criminal enterprises, with our areas known and further demonstrable. Because then there's ones with medicine and with healthcare tied to the policing and stuff like that, into the relationships, and that's all with psychology. They're very ill with delusion propagating. They have all kinds of delusion, physical delusions, and they're just doing this juxtaposed with crimes with their patients, with the area, especially the ones who are with the service people and tied to the untimely deaths with the evidence rackets recorded tied to them, and with judges. And see, that is what's maintained to maintain them to roles as nature's pretending it's justifiable, their convictions and their conviction nature regarding the elderly and regarding treatments of our ages of fact treatment nature. And with their roles, dishonestly attaching them to ulterior fact treatment nature's justifications of it, with the industry, how they approach everything, truth. You know what I'm saying? So, in zoning laws and stuff like that, with schools, especially in urban areas, you still haven't connected those. That's why the suburbs are denatured from our own means too. With all interbranch corruption through time, recorded, not let reported, to that recorded. So with the resources like water, ponds, and fish, everything's denatured. It's just landscape theater. So there's really no place to bring them to anyways. But I'm saying, and then we're still in the homes that they had with worse than slavery alone, with the laws and with the roles, with multi-layer crazy database, and then ulterior database that no one even realizes, and ulterior ones, and that's what the problem is with the terrorism now, and with the England too, and it's a relationship to the original organized crime method with how the colonies were set up